and invited herself to our Disneyland trip, but no one wanted her there. I had to post this as I am reminded of this story every week and felt that this was the place to post it. I will apologize first as this is a long story and I will try to summarize it a bit. A little background. Growing up, my aunt has always been a bit entitled and believed that my sister and I were beneath her and not fit to play with her children. My mother is also entitled to an extent, and neither really liked my husband when we first started dating. I was 19 and he was 26. Our first Christmas together we spent at my grandparents' house, and it was always the rule that the older children had to watch the younger children until you became an adult. Well, my husband made the comment that he thought my aunt was a bitch because she threw a fit when he refused to go downstairs and watch the other children as we were adults and didn't have any kids of our own. This didn't go over well with my aunt or my mother and caused them to think and comment badly about him for 5 years. On to the story. So, in late 2020, my aunt started to hang around our house every week with my mother saying that we treated her better than her own children. Anyway, in 2020, our kids were seniors in high school and about to graduate, and I wanted to do something that we haven't had time or money to do as I was always working 2 jobs before they go off to college. I started planning a family vacation to Disney and Universal Florida as a graduation present. At this time, my husband and I were both working 2 jobs so that we could save up enough money to support the boys while they were in college, and they can just focus on school. Now, at first, we did not tell anyone what we were planning for the reason coming up. However, it did get leaked to my aunt and mother what we were planning, and at first my mother was okay with it just being my children, my husband, and myself going. My aunt, however, decided that she wanted a vacation too and that she would just come with us on ours since we were already going. My mother soon thought that if my aunt was going that it would be okay if she went as well. My husband and I were not okay with this, but having learned from the past, we knew they would make our lives hell if we didn't give in. So we agree, and they knew that they had to pay for themselves. We were in the planning stages and decided that since our boys were so tall, it would be better if we drove down to Florida instead of paying $4,000 just for all of us to fly, as we didn't have that kind of money. We were looking at renting an SUV as it was going to cost $2,000 for 2 weeks, and we had decided that after Disney we were going to drive around to Arizona to tour their college campus and then circle back home. While we were all discussing this, my aunt decided that we will use her car. My husband and I didn't like this idea as it is a lot of wear and tear on her vehicle, but she insisted and we caved again. It was only the 4 of us driving down as my mom and aunt were going to fly, and I would have to pick them up at the airport since it was an hour away from our hotel. While planning the trip, I asked everyone if there was anything specific they wanted to do so I could plan for it, as we had to make park reservations for each day of our stay since it was during COVID 2021. I decided on which park we were going to based on everyone's wishes. All through this planning, my aunt says she is fine with everything and thanks me for taking all of this on. The trip, we drive down and I drop the kids and my husband off at Disney Springs while I go get my mom and aunt from the airport. First, their plane was an hour late and no one told me. They knew their flight was delayed before they boarded and could have texted me. After I picked them up, we head to the hotel to check in and drop them off at their room. I go and pick up my family so we can get settled in the hotel as well. My mom has mobility issues, so she rented a scooter for the week, and my aunt said that if she had any problems walking the parks she would rent on there. I do want to note that I have a bad back and usually cannot walk or stand for long periods of time, but I was working on my stamina for this trip so that I wouldn't need a scooter as well, since the car was not big enough to hold all of us plus 2 to 3 scooters. Also, they decided that we would drive to the parks instead of using Disney transportation since it was faster and easier for them. So, the next day we had planned to go to Universal for the day, and as we were staying on Disney property, we had to drive. Keep in mind that there are now 6 of us plus a scooter. The first hiccup happened when we were looking for the Diagon Alley entrance so we could get wands for the boys to use around the parks. None of us have been to Universal except for my aunt, and so we were a little lost, and I was looking on the app trying to figure out where to go. My aunt then starts saying that I don't know what I am doing and asks, "Do you know where we are going?" I reply that as this is the first time I have been here, no, I don't know where we are or how to get where we are going. She huffs and starts talking bad about me to my kids. I make the comment that since she has been here before, she should take the lead and we will follow. She says no and that I am better at figuring this stuff out. Eventually, we find the entrance to Diagon Alley and we get the wands and start wandering around. She is still a little huffy about the fact that I stood up to her, but I ignore it and just try to have fun. There were a few rides we wanted to go on that they couldn't, so we split up after lunch. My husband and I one way, our kids go off in another direction, and my mom and aunt go somewhere else. While we were waiting in line for a ride, my mother calls me and says that my aunt was trying to get a scooter, but as the park was out of scooters, she is going to take the car and go back to the hotel. I said, how, as I have the keys. She said she brought the spare keys and that she will come back for us when we are done. I go into panic mode as my aunt is known to ignore our calls and texts and will fall asleep and not wake up until morning if she is worn out. I tell her that she can get an Uber or taxi back to the hotel as there is no guarantee she will return for us, and it would be a lot more expensive for us to get a ride back to the hotel than it would be for her. She then states, "It is my car," to which I reply lie that as we traded cars and she is mine, that it is actually my car until I get mine back and that she can't just leave us stranded here. If it was in a Disney park, we would have transportation options and it wouldn't have been a big deal. As we were gearing up for a war over the car, the customer service desk called my aunt and said they had a scooter available for her. She was okay with that and the whole thing with the car was dropped. I thought this was the end of it. I mean, I was P.Ed, but I wanted to enjoy our vacation. However, this was just the beginning. The next day we are in the Disney parks, and I have sent the boys off to have fun since it looked like we were going to be stuck with my mother and my aunt for the duration of the vacation and I wanted them to have fun on this trip. The morning was okay, but as the afternoon wore on, my aunt kept making little snide remarks about how I was controlling everything and deciding on where we went, etc. I told her that she is more than welcome to go her own way as I only decided on which park we were going to. And so, this was her attitude the whole week we were in Disney. She would constantly pick at me or badmouth me to my family and even to strangers we passed. And every time I snapped back, it just seemed to add more fuel for her attitude. She wanted to go to a sit-down restaurant and the sci-fi diner is where we were able to get a reservation. It was cool as the tables/booths are styled to look like cars and picnic tables so that it seems like you are at a drive-in. Now as we are a party of 6, it is a little difficult to seat us and when we were sat, it was at a picnic table style. Because it was not a car style, my aunt and my mother threw a fit because it wasn't a car style. They caused such a scene that the manager ended up caving in and finding us a car table. I was so embarrassed that I pulled the manager and waitress aside and apologized for their rude behavior. At the end of dinner as we were about to walk out, I discovered that neither my mom nor my aunt left a tip. The waitress was super nice and did a great job dealing with those two that I was annoyed they didn't leave her anything for her trouble. I went back and added more money to the tip I left as she was wonderful. So, this was how the week ended up being with them, and every day after the first day, my aunt would ask when we would be back with her car as she didn't want to drive mine again because it smelled. I am a smoker and did smoke in my car, so it smelled like cigarettes. She did know from the very beginning that we would be gone a week longer than them due to our other plans. It is our last night in Disney and I had made a reservation for a character dinner that my aunt requested. But in these COVID times, everything is socially distanced and the characters no longer come up to your table. They were there and they did interact with each guest so they could get pictures and such. I had explained this to both my mom and my aunt and asked if they were okay with that. They said they were. However, they complained the whole time about how they didn't get to hug Mickey or Pluto. And again, they failed to leave a tip for the server who was bending over backward to make sure we had enough of everything. But since they couldn't hug the characters, it was the worst meal we ever had. I was fed up with them at this point, and after we were done eating and paying, I left a big enough tip for all of us. The boys, my husband and I leave to go ride a couple of rides before we go back to the hotel. There was one ride that my mom wanted to go on with us, but she didn't communicate that to me and so we didn't know and went on that ride. We met up with them when we got off the ride and she was livid that we didn't wait for her. We said we were willing to go on it again as there was no line and we liked it, but she said she just wanted to go back to the hotel. The next day I drove them to the airport in silence and dropped them off. I cannot tell you how relieved I was to see them go. Later I found out that my aunt had left my mother in the airport to get to the gate on her own in a wheelchair with her luggage. My aunt had the tickets on her phone, so I don't know how my mother would have been able to board the plane if she hadn't caught up to her thanks to a traveling mother with kids. After they left and we continued our trip to Arizona, our vacation lightened up and my husband and I started to have fun. And we thought that would be the end of it until we got back home. Again, we were so wrong. Every day about 2 to 3 times a day, my aunt would text my husband. She would not contact me at all, and ask when we were giving her car back and he would tell her the same thing we told her in the beginning. When we got to the border of Colorado and Omaha, we did start to get a little worried that she might report her car as stolen, which would have cost me my job. Thankfully, she didn't go that far. After we got home, we detailed the car and filled the gas tank up so that it was so much cleaner than it was when she gave it to us and so she wouldn't have anything to complain about. The next morning, we took her car back and picked up mine. When we arrived, my uncle, her brother, came out of the house and just stood there with his arms crossed and didn't say a word to me, just stared at me like he thought I was going to try to get past him to do something to my aunt. I knew then that she had been telling everyone in the family how I mistreated her. I don't know what my uncle thought I was going to do, but I guess I didn't do what he expected because he stood there with a surprised look on his face. I just wanted to leave and go home, so all I did was hand her the keys and she hands my husband my keys and then we get into my car. The minute I get in my car I am livid. It is trashed and only has a quarter of a tank of gas. I gave it to her clean and with a full tank of gas. That night, my aunt sent a text to my husband thanking him for cleaning the car and had to admit that it was cleaner than it was when she gave it to us, which was true since she had left food in it. As we were leaving my aunt's house, my husband turned turned to me and said, "Yeah, I was right 20 years ago. That woman is a bitch." To this day, that side of the family does not talk to me and I am okay with that. My mother is still super pissed at how my aunt and uncle treated me and has not voluntarily talked to them if she can help it. In the future, we have decided that if we tell the family what we are doing, we are going to tell everyone that it will just be the four of us and no one else will be welcome. That was the first major family vacation we had since the boys were born and my aunt and mother ruined it for us. At least my kids had fun since I wouldn't let them be dragged into their drama. Now story 2. Dad tried to move in my stepmom's family behind my back, so I kicked them all out. My father, 52, and I, 25F, along with my 3 years old Cocker Spaniel, Moxie, live in my mom's ancestral house that I inherited along with other assets when she died when I was 16 due to cancer. My father got married to his high school sweetheart a few months ago while he was on a trip with his friends. Apparently they've been in contact for almost 2 years now. I was shocked, but it is life, and if he's happy then I'm okay with it. They moved in a week after the small wedding that I wasn't even invited to since I had no idea that they were even dating or that he was dating. She, my dad's wife that we'll call Steph, 51, came with a baggage, twin stepsisters, 20F, Lizzie and Lexi, fake names, and their 2 chihuahuas, Gucci and Hermes. They go to the state college nearby and thought that it would save them money if they live here instead of paying rent, etc. My dad asked if it was okay and he also stated that the house is big enough for us, 7 bedrooms, 5 baths, a basement and a huge yard with a pool. To make my dad happy I said yes. Big mistake. First issue was the argument of me moving to a smaller room since my room has the second biggest closest out of all the rooms in the house. She needed it to store all her luxury bags and clothes, etc. I said no. I told her it's been my room since I can remember and she's not making me move when it's my house. My dad compromised with her that he'll give his side of the closet to her, while his things are in the other room. Second issue, the twins have this habit of barging into people's room without knocking, and that includes my office. Currently working from home due to COVID. Lexi walked in one time wearing a bikini looking for something while I was in the middle of a business meeting. She literally walked behind me where everyone could see her. I was pissed off and embarrassed. Third, their dogs are not potty trained and would leave poops and pee around the house and the twins wouldn't even clean up after them. They're also very aggressive towards Moxie. I found Moxie one time with a scratch on her left eye where the other 2 dogs would usually nip it when they get the chance. Fourth, all the family photos in the house were removed and put in the attic without my approval. That includes my grandparents, my great-grandparents, my mother's family photo, my baby pictures, etc. I took my time to put them all back to where they belonged. This happened a few times. 2 days ago, Steph did it again, but this time she replaced them with her pictures, the twins, and her family, etc. Steph and I had a heated argument about it. I told her that she can't do anything regarding the decorations, etc. in my house without my approval and that her daughters should also learn how to knock on doors and have their dogs potty trained. She said that they can whatever they want in her house and that she will be making up house rules that we will all follow since she thinks I'm such a wild animal doing whatever I want and that I was not raised properly due to having a bad useless mother. I was livid. That's an understatement. I told her that she can pack her things along with her twins because I'm kicking her out. She said that I have no right to kick them out from her house. I told her, and I quote, "Lady, you are living under my roof. This is my house. I inherited it from my mother and right now your twins, and your dogs are trespassing. Get out before I call the cops." My dad got home early the day after Steph told him what happened. I told him my side of the story. He said that they're still getting used to the house and the move here was difficult for them. I told him about all the issues surrounding them, but he keep insisting that it's going to get better and that to just give them some time. I told him that I've put up with all their shit and I've had enough. Enough is enough. He was defending them more, taking their side. So, I told him that he can either move out with them or stay and that he has until the end of the week. Did I do the right thing here, making my dad choose between me and his new family? I literally gave them a chance and I've put up with so much of their shit for the past few months. What she said about my mother was my breaking point. There's no way that she will disrespect her in the house where I grew up in. Quick update. So, just a quick update. I've read the comments and thank you for your support. I really do appreciate it. It does make it seem like I'm a pushover. Well, maybe I am. I just don't like confrontation, arguing, or anything that ends up fighting with someone. I'm just not that type of person. I will be changing the locks around the house as some of you suggested. Unfortunately, the gate in the property is old and rusted and it's been open for who knows how long, so I can't really do much about it right now. Anyway, I called the same lawyer that handled my mom's will to review if there's any loophole or any chance that my dad can contest it. I will be seeing her in a couple of hours. Regarding my dad, he's a good man and he's worked hard to provide for me and my needs when my mom died. He's never asked me to tap on my money to help with the living expenses, etc. He makes a decent amount of money as an engineer, like 6 figures, so I don't think he's after my money. I could be wrong though. I just think that he's blinded that someone still finds him attractive at his age. Also didn't help how it was his high school sweetheart. I've also talked to him about his impromptu wedding and how he kept things from me. He just said that he didn't how I was going to react if I knew that he was dating the ex-GF before he met and married my mom. I was pissed off, but I got over it since he seemed happy having her around. I don't know what their whole history is or if there's a bad blood between her and my mom to make her lash out like that and disrespect her. Steph and her evil spawns are staying somewhere in town. No idea where, and I don't care or want to find out. They have the money to take care of themselves, and if they run out, they always have their luxury bags to sell. Honestly, who needs so much bag that they require a whole closet just to store them? If anyone's wondering where my relatives are, well, my mom was an only child and grandparents left her everything. When my mom died, I got most of what she inherited. She left some to my dad as well. My grandparents on my dad's side lives about 6 hours away with my uncles and aunts. It's literally just me and my dad here, and Moxie. Moxie is doing well. She's happier and seemed to enjoy the quietness around the house. I will update as soon as I can, but thank you for all the support. Update. Here's the update. I spoke with my mother's previous lawyer, Amy, fake name, about the issue on Saturday and asked if there's a way to contest the will. She showed me the documents and Maya and I both signed an agreement, in summary, that we agree on what was left to us and that we will not be contesting it in the future. Mom for the win. She also advised to give them at least 30 days to find a place and move out to avoid any legal troubles, etc. So, inheritance issue is solved. Saturday night, I was supposed to have dinner with just my dad. Apparently a private discussion between father and daughter is a whole family affair. Steph and twins were there. To make it quick and to end the misery, I stated that I spoke with Amy regarding the house and other legal issues. I also added that they have 30 days to find a place and move out. Steph tried to object, but Dad shut her down by saying that we can fix the issue and that we can all go to family therapy and that we just need time to get to know each other. Cue my eyes rolling. I informed him that it's been months since they moved in and not once did they try to be family unless they need something. I put my foot down. Enough is enough. So, I asked him if he's going with them or staying so I'll know which items he'll be taking. He asked if I'm kicking him out, which I told him I'm not, that he's free to choose to wherever he goes, but I told him that he should not expect me to keep in contact with him if he decides to leave. Steph asked why I'm kicking him out of his house. I told her that I inherited my house from my mother. She said that he told her that I live him. I guess she thought that I live with my dad in his house. Big misunderstanding on their part. Lexi argued that it's going to be hard to move since they're finishing up spring semester and that finals are in a couple of weeks. I just smiled and said to better hurry and find a place. I left after that. Yesterday, Easter Sunday, I invited my boyfriend and his family and my two best friends over to celebrate Easter Sunday. My dad has been calling me and I didn't bother answering the call. He tried to invite me to spend the day with them. As far as I'm concerned, the only family I have right now are my two best friends, my boyfriend and his family. It was a good Sunday. We did some egg hunting and a few games and had a big dinner, which I haven't had in a long time. I felt right. Anyway, right now I'm finishing up on documenting everything that's worth over $500 in the house. I had a few people over to help document them. All locks have been changed. I only gave a copy to my BF. Don't worry about my dad asking him about the key. He doesn't approve of him since he's middle class. I also hired professionals to install a security system around the house and property and I am scheduled to meet with someone regarding the fences and gate. I have not tapped into the fund that my mom left since I started college to help with tuition, dorm, and other expenses, but this is an emergency and it calls for it. All the family pictures, portraits, etc. are currently in a storage. All other valuables that are small are in a safety deposit box. All documents are in a water and fire-proof safe that requires a key and pin to open, currently in my room. I'm trying to take all the precautions and advise that you guys wrote on the comment section in my previous post. Thank you for those. So, that's about it for now. Not really sure why Dad is choosing to be with them than me, his own flesh and blood. I'll update this if there's any news or something stupid happens, but I've come to accept that for some unknown or unexplainable reason, they're more important to him than me. It's hard, since he's the only family I have left here, and I'm really not that close with his side of the family. So, once they move out, I am cutting contact with them. He's a grown man and he can decide whatever the fuck he wants to do with his life. Thanks for all the support and well wishes.